Hi, and thank you for joining us for this episode of The State of Leadership Simple and Beyond. That is Robert Hilliard. I am Whitney Wiley, and you are here on Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, with us talking all things leadership. And so today we are going to be talking about networking and the importance of networking. And this conversation came up because Robert and I have a weekly meeting outside of this episode, and networking came up. And it is an important aspect of your role as a leader, right? Not only for yourself and your career, but for your team members as well. And we're going to talk about networking, not just for your promotion, right? But the other positives that come from networking and how you can actually use it and benefit. So, any opening thoughts, Robert, on networking?
No, I am excited for this topic because a lot of people have a problem with networking or they think of it as salesy. So I think this is a good topic for us to talk about.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you started with that, because the point that I would like to make above all the others, and we'll talk some strategy and the whys, but that networking is really relational, right? It's about building relationships. And if you will look at it as relationship building rather than transactional, and it's about I do for you and you do for me, and I'm only here to sell you something, then it will take some of the, dare I say, yuck out of it. Right, right, some of that feeling that you get when someone is, you're somewhere and you're just passing business cards. And then we'll talk about how you can actually network and dare I say, make it fun. I actually just spent 2 hours this morning on a networking call. In addition to a coach and a trainer and all the other things, I am a managing director for the Sacramento chapter of eWomen Network, and we had a networking call, what we call a strategic business introduction. And it's a structured meeting, but it's intended to help the women build connection and relationship. And we talk about community connection and collaboration and the opportunities to do that. And it all starts with building relationships, right? And we do business with people that we know, like, and trust. And those are the same things that you want with your team members, right? You want to have them know, like, and trust you, respect maybe a little more than like you as a person. They don't need to like you and want to go on vacations with you, but right, being a likable person, someone who is looking out for other people. So um I think I discovered the importance of networking, certainly as I was trying to grow my career, right? And I have probably been someone who wasn't particularly interested, I would say, at the beginning of doing that. And then I realized by networking, I actually made my work easier, right? And it wasn't for necessarily that I was thinking about the next job and how can I network so that when the time comes for me to get another job, that I have people to reach out to. I think for me, that was a byproduct of building the relationships, building my network. But certainly I understood the value of building relationships in my work as a lobbyist and a lawyer, particularly as a lobbyist, because I did not work in an industry where we had money. right? We to the degree that we had a pact and there was some money there, it wasn't a lot. So that wasn't something that afforded us access to legislators and their their staff, because we weren't going to a lot of fundraising events, right? That's what you use the money for the PAC, so that you can go to fundraising events, so that you can build the networks, build the relationship, so that you could then go in and, you know, someone would take meetings with you because they know you and they know that you're supporting them. And so I did not work for an employer or in an industry where that was really an option. And so I had to learn quickly how to build those relationships outside of that. And then the other aspect where this became hugely important was building coalitions, right, within the organization that I worked for, and then outside of our organization with similarly situated stakeholders, and then the stakeholders who tended to be on opposing sides. And so understanding the value of building relationships and doing simple things like coffee, right? Or having conversations after a hearing, just stepping outside of the hearing room and continuing a conversation with someone. It made it possible for me when I was on the opposite side of someone to be able to call, and that they would take my calls and to actually hear what I had to say, right? And listen. And in a time where we've got a nation that appears to be hugely divided, right? Getting people to be open and willing to have conversation with you is really important. And it starts with relationships.
I totally agree. When I was getting ready for this episode, I was thinking about how I use networks. And one of the things that came up for me was nearly every client I've received is through some sort of network. And very few of them, I would say the majority of them, come from me not even trying to get a client.
Yeah.
It's because I have that relationship with someone, that I built that relationship with someone, that I didn't just reach out to that person when I needed something, but was like, hey, that person's on my mind, or hey, I know something about that person. I know that person likes this. I know that person likes art, or I know that person is into the show. I just watched that show. Let me just connect with this person and have small talk about that. It can be through a text, it could be through Instagram or some other social media. And by keeping those relationships warm, we use that term a lot. That's how I've gotten clients.
Yes.
Something came up. This is a recent thing where something came up and they said they were asking a colleague of mine if they could do something. He said, well, I don't do that, but Robert does. And they forwarded that relationship to me, and I've been working for them for months now, and quite possibly we'll do some work in the next year. And inside of that, started networking again, meeting. So it's how it works, and it's all from just building that relationship.
Absolutely. And I would say I have the same. I on LinkedIn, and here's one of these challenges with social media on LinkedIn, and we are live streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and in Facebook. But I tend to get this on LinkedIn is people reaching out wanting to sell me something without first trying to build relationships. And I have in the past, here's an interesting thing. In the past, I have sort of either ignored those requests or responded, I'm not interested, and moved on. I actually took a different approach. It, I don't, the timing was not such that it was because we were doing this episode, but it is certainly because I'm thinking more about networking and connection and collaboration that I got an inquiry, I'll call it that, And my response was that to actually invite them to the networking meeting that I had earlier. So I took it and turned it around and said, how can I actually help you build your business? The way that you were, I did not say this, but the way this person was approaching me about business wasn't working. But I said, how about if I introduce you in a different way, right? And so that becomes a part of what you're talking about is building that relationship. And certainly the similar has been the case for me in terms of most of my clients come by way of the networks that I am a part of, either individuals or organizations. And so when someone reaches out to me saying, I can help you, increase your clients in some inauthentic way to me, I'm not inclined, right? I'm not inclined to move in that, because I truly believe that relationships are important in business and in personal life. And so, one of the things that you and I have, we've talked about this before. We've known each other now for 11 years. We've been in each other's presence physically 3 whole times, or twice. No, 3 times, right? 3 times. And but we continue, and we are introducing each other to other people that can be helpful in other ways. And so I've built some relationships with people you've introduced me to. And I reached out to you within the last couple of weeks, because someone that you and I did a program, we did a program together last summer. And one of the attendees at that program reached out to me and said, I have this potential opportunity. Would you be interested? Can you do it? Would you be interested? And I reached out to you to say, here's an opportunity. Let's think about how we could make this happen. Right. So we are networked. We have a relationship, a business relationship, and it is one that continues to, I at least on my side, I can say serves the purposes for which I am in business. And so
same here.
I think it's important to think about what it is you want and who it is you want to know, and what it is you want to do, so that you can again build those relationships. And something that Robert said is that it's not necessarily with expectation of something right now, right? And so being relational is not necessarily about immediate gain, right? It's a mindset, and it is ultimately it's a long-term mindset, and meaningful connections will yield benefits and unexpected benefits over the long haul, not necessarily, oh, I did something for Robert and now I'm sitting around, on my watch going, when am I going to get a return on my investment from Robert? Maybe it comes from Robert, maybe it comes from someone else that may or may not even know Robert, right? But it is, you give and you receive.
And it may not come at all. And that's the other thing. You have to, when you're building relationships, you're not friends with people. Not these are not necessarily your friends, but you're not friends with people. Well, I know I'm not, because of what I can get from them.
Right.
You're friends with them because you have a connection, something, maybe you have something in common. Maybe you like the same things, or you dislike the same things, whatever it is. You're friends with people for reasons other than your own gain. And sometimes, look, it may not come in the form of a business connection or a client referral. It may come in, I'm having a hard time. Let me just talk to this person about it, because
Yeah.
I need somebody to talk to about this. That's not in my family. That's just somebody who will listen. And as you're talking to that person may say, you know what? I have a solution for you, or talk
Yes.
to this person. So it's about really support. And I think that if we can shift our mindset a little bit, reframe networking and remove it from like, I'm going to this networking event because I need something, and
You're right.
shift it to, I'm going to this networking event, or I'm networking because I want to make connections with people. I want to build relationships with people. It will be a lot easier. I want to say one other thing. It's really difficult if you don't like people. If you
That is
don't
true.
if
That
you
is
don't
true.
like people, you're not going to be able to do this. And the funny thing is, most people don't know this about me, is I'm an introvert. I am not the kind of person that goes up to people in parties and at parties and talks to them. I don't do that. But I found a way to connect with people by trying to be genuinely interested in them.
Yes. And that's one of those skills and slash strategies that we've talked about, right, when it comes to your team members, is being genuinely interested, being curious, being someone who asks questions, get to know people. How do you know that you have something in common with someone? By getting to know them, asking questions, right, spending time with them, and in different sorts of situations, so that you can know what matters to them, what they're good at, what they need, etc. And a good point, pouring into others, right, by offering support, guidance, resources, without expecting anything in return. Right, you don't have to. Again, this is not like quid pro quo. This is not a tit for tat. I'm only going to do for Robert because I'm thinking Robert's going to do something for me. No, just give, just serve, give value to people, and trust that, not necessarily from Robert, but that the value that you need comes from wherever it needs to come from, because you reap what you sow, right? You reap what you sow, but it doesn't have to be a one for one or one to one, and it doesn't have to be uh, uh, necessarily of like kind, right? And that's I think the really interesting part of this. In another context, I would give it a different name, but in this context, I'm just going to leave it at that, because I don't want to take this a conversation down a different pathway. But just pour into other people, and the other part of that is then being open to people pouring into you, right? When people are supportive of you, and it is it's an energy ultimately, and energy only works when it flows, right? You can, or water, right, when it flows. If you dam it up by not giving, by not receiving, right, you block the flow. And so relationships are energy. It's energy based, it's energy dependent, and that means it has to go back and forth, but it doesn't have to be specifically with the one person that you're giving to. Um, and so when we were talking about, I want to share a um, an example. And so years ago, when I tried entrepreneurship for the first time, and I was sort of getting myself out there, I made a decision that I was just going to volunteer. Right. I found a couple of different organizations, and I said, I'm going to go and volunteer in these organizations. And my intent was to get to know people, to build relationships, for people to see what I had to offer and see how that would um, how see what would come of that. And so I was intentionally looking for something in return. And as I was actively trying, I'll say trying to make things happen, I found the more I tried, the less things happen. And then I made a decision to just give, right? Without the expectation. And all of a sudden, there were people who were reaching out to me, both for what I was doing and just to be connected. And some of those relationships turned into friendships, some stayed business. They were people that helped me in when I decided to go to law school, and helped me understand the process and what to do and sort of navigating that whole world that would not have happened if I had not put myself out there. And so this is one of those areas, sort of in a Brené Brown sort of way, right? We're being vulnerable, being okay with putting yourself out there. And as adults, it sometimes is difficult to be the one to want to start, a relationship, right? When we're kids, it's really easy to just go, yeah, do you want to be my friend? And as adults, that's, I think maybe a little creepy. It shouldn't be, but it is. But you can do the same thing. And going back to what you said earlier, is like, be curious, right? Be curious, ask questions, and be okay with that.
So I shouldn't try that. I shouldn't just walk up to people and going, hey, do you want to be my friend? It does sound creepy. But, when you were talking, what came up for me is sincerity can be felt. You can tell when someone's being sincere when you have that, when they meet with you and they're not trying to get something out of it. I'm from New York, as you know, and I am naturally skeptical of anybody that comes up to me that is trying to talk to me about something, sell me something, this, that, and the other thing. And so I am really guarded. But if someone comes up to me and they start just getting to know me, or they're honest with me and they say, hey, look, I want to talk to you about this because I'm trying to sell this stuff or whatever it is. I get those messages in LinkedIn as well. And I'm super skeptical of people that are like, well, I read some of your articles. And I think that you are, and they put some, crazy superlative in there. I'm like going, uh-huh. I am not, a tenured professor of organizational development and with 15 articles out there that have been published. Stop.
Yeah, being genuine, authentic, extremely important in this process, right? So we talked about it's a mindset, right? Changing it from being transactional to making it about being relational and understanding that that building real relationships rather than focusing on gain is the path forward. It takes sort of it takes the creepiness out. It takes that sort of salesy thing out of it, and being willing to, again, give without expectation, right? Give first and then trust that what is for you ultimately is for you, and it will come in its appropriate time and in the way that it needs to. And as a leader, right, this is an opportunity also for you to show that as an example with your team members. And so be okay with that. I think one of the things that's important is that we recognize that there are going to be times when you need to tap into your network, right? And that becomes an important part of what we're sharing here today, is that yes, you are pouring into other people, you are doing that from a genuine place without expectation, but there is going to come a time when you need to tap into your network. And so it becomes important for you not to neglect your network, so that when the time comes, you can do this. And one of the things that really sort of prompted this conversation for me, is I'm having this with my client, this conversation with my clients all the time, particularly those who are in the job market. And I have clients who tend to not want to be on social media, right? Sharing their lives on social media. And that's fine. You don't have to share your life on social media. So I've got two parts to this. One is just that changing of the mindset that you need to be connected to people, which means you need to stay in touch with them. And you don't control other people, so you have to be the one to initiate the contact and the interaction. And I know for a lot of people, being the one is a challenge, right? And it's sort of being, well, what if they don't respond, and what if, with all the what ifs, and won't I come across as creepy or desperate or whatever? And one, you have to be willing to ask for help if you need help with something, right? But the way to take some of that off is to maintain the relationships. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to talk to people every day, right? You don't, or even every week. I suggest, right, if you haven't been in touch with someone, that you just reach out, all right, with phone call, with a text. I was thinking of you, just wanted to check in, see how things are going, right? You're not asking for anything. You're just warming up, rewarming the connection and the relationship. And you do it by, you don't have to ask for a lot of time, and you just ask a couple of questions about how someone is doing and what's going on with them in their lives. The chances are they're going to ask you in return. And I always say, still don't ask for anything, right? When you what's the word that I'm looking for, Robert? When you are reconnecting, reinvigorating, something that, right, bringing that relationship back after a period of time. Don't ask for anything. Just don't ask for anything. And so in order to get to a place where you can ask for things, you want to pour into people. All right. So let's say intentional, you are in the job market, and that you know that you need to be availing yourself of your network. You're not going to make your first ask, right, with the first conversation, but you can do things. And here's the second part of this, and how social media actually makes it easier. So for all of you who are running from social media, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to do funny dance moves and play with my cat on TikTok and all. No one's saying do that, but you can utilize social media by giving people that you are connected to on social media what they want, right? And people on social media, regardless of what they may say, want engagement, right? They're not posting for crickets, right? Yeah. Most people are not posting for crickets. They are posting for engagement. So give them what they want, and you start to build some capital, right? You start to build some capital and that reconnection. And so you like what they post, if you genuinely like what they post, or on LinkedIn, there are other options. You can say something's insightful, you can laugh, whatever is appropriate. Facebook, the same. I don't think you have that option on Instagram. I think either you can like it or don't like it. And on YouTube, you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, right? So if you don't like it, don't say anything at all. So if you don't like it, no comment, just let it go. But if you do, then like it and then share a comment, right? A positive comment, because again, this is about building relationship, and you're not going to do that by denigrating or tearing down something someone has written or thought, etc. So the two parts: one, it is an easy way to make a connection, right? It's sort of an in, and then you can build on that. And then the other part is that you want to actually give the person what they want, and what they want is engagement.
I agree. Engagement, and I think the key to this, and we've talked about this throughout this episode, is being authentic. Don't say things if they feel slimy or salesy to you, and you're going to have, just be authentic. And I think your point is well taken. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. This whole thing about, well, I'm giving that person feedback. I think that one of the reasons why, I know for myself, and I'm fairly certain that other people feel the same way, that because social media, I want to just talk about that for a minute, there is this disconnect, right? You don't have to know who I really am with social media. I don't have to have my real name up there. I can put a handle up there. Therefore, a lot of people feel that they can say whatever they want to say. And I think that's what keeps people away from, social media. Certainly, I try to be really measured in what I say on social media, because it's going to be out there forever. So really be mindful of how you interact on social media, especially when you're building your network. You want to make sure that you're just keeping it positive, so that, it doesn't come back to haunt you. And you said something else really about reaching out to people, not because you need something, but just because you're keeping that relationship going. Because eventually you may need that person, and you don't want to show up like, oh, I'm only reaching out because I need this thing here. I need this favor, or I'm having a hard time here. So those are really good points.
And so sort of the process is, start small, right? But be consistent. And you can take your, whatever the network is that you have, both online and offline, right? And set up a schedule where you are consistently reaching out. Say maybe you're reaching out to 10 people a week in whatever ways, online, not online, text, emails, phone calls, what have you. And have a plan, right? And then rotate through your whatever size of the network, the people that you've identified that you're going to keep in touch with, right? That you consistently and routinely sort of cycle through, touching base, periodic check-ins, sharing articles, right? And this is something that people don't necessarily stop and think of. Like, let's say Robert and I hadn't talked for a while. I know Robert's into strategy, and I run across some article on, leadership strategy or organizational strategy. I could just ship Robert a link to the article and say, I know you're really into this, was thinking about you. Here's an article. I don't know if you've read it already, and it doesn't really matter in the end, right? The bottom line is Robert's like, Whitney thought about me. She sent me something that could be helpful for me. And so Robert takes a note of that, right? A few months later, I see something that he's posted on LinkedIn. And so I like it, share a comment, right? So here are a couple of times. And then down the line, right? I see that Robert is connected to some organization that I want to be a part of. And I reach out and say, I see that you're a part of this. Tell me what your experiences, what your interactions are like, right? And then you can build on that. But it starts with giving first. And there is a book by Gary Vaynerchuk that it's a sales book, but it applies in this situation. It's called Jab, 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 Right Hook, right? And it's like give, give, give before you ask someone for something. And that's what we're talking about here. Your network is about giving. It's about connecting with people. And if social media makes it easy for you to do that, then leverage social media. Again, this is not about you having to be on and doing TikToks and dance moves and the like. This is about leveraging a platform that makes it easier for you to connect with people. And to the degree that you choose to share, right? I will say this: that I was reticent about sharing things on social media, and for the longest time, I didn't join Facebook, and that was the second sort of, I'd been an early adopter of LinkedIn. But I wasn't ever looking for a job, so I didn't really use it. And then it has morphed, evolved. LinkedIn has evolved, right? And the way we use it now is a little different than how it was used in the early days, and the advice that you were given, etc. And so sort of the first interactive place I started was on Facebook, and I opened an account in my dog's name because I didn't want to be bothered. And so I didn't want like ex-boyfriends tracking me down and the like. So I created an account for my dog and did my whatever I was doing under the dog. And then when I went back to school, my cohort decided to use Facebook as a communication tool. And I started to see it in a different light. And so, and then I opened up a little bit. And then when I launched and was in business full time, I kept getting utilize social media for your business, right? And so a little bit of you, and then business, education, use it for good, right? And so I started doing that, and it has made a difference. And something that I posted, or a series of things that I posted, actually resulted in someone that I was connected to reaching out and said, "Oh, I didn't know you were doing that. I have an opportunity for you." Right? And so again, it's a tool. It's a tool. And if you think about what it is you want and how you want to use it, how you want to leverage it, you can make it useful for you. And one of the things that you can use it for, again, is keeping your connections warm, right? Keeping your connections warm, staying connected to people, knowing what they're doing, right? Commenting on, congratulating people when they get promotions or a new job, when they have a birthday, if they get a role on a board, whatever it is, celebrating people and what they're doing, and then commenting on if they've written an article or have a video or something that they've done, because you don't know when and if you may need to reach out to those people. And if you are ever in the job market, right, that you can then take advantage or leverage the connections that you have for the job market. At the same time, you can leverage those relationships for your leadership and growing in leadership, because the essence the essence of leadership is relationships, right? And building trust. And some of what you do with that is your thought leadership. And so thinking about how you are communicating who you are and what you know to your network, again, utilizing social media where you can.
Yeah, I think those are great points. I'm trying to think if I have anything to add to that, but I really don't. I mean, you said that so well. And you did. I'm not just, you know me, I don't give out compliments freely. I'm just joking. But no, it's really important to really shift. And we've said this earlier at the very top of the show, your mindset about this. If you're having a hard time, if you really haven't utilized your network, or if you think of it as something that is salesy or slimy or inauthentic, it's really a question of what helps me in these situations is really looking at the similarities that it has with just making acquaintances or friendships with people, particularly when you're at a job. Because I'm friends now with people that I've met at other jobs before, and I didn't meet them thinking, oh, I'm going to be best friends with this person, or this person's going to be in my life forever. I met this person and started talking to this person and realized that we had a connection, or we're interested in the same thing, or they were interested in something, or they knew something, or was associated with something that I was interested in. And it built from there. And, and then we just started talking, and then maybe I left the job, or maybe they left the job, and we continued to connect. I think we're living in a time now where we can utilize, I almost said we're almost too connected. It's easier now to be connected to people, because if you utilize Facebook and you're truly friends, or you have colleagues in there, everyone is in the same place. It's easy to reach out to everybody because they're all in the same place. You can reach out to people simultaneously. So the power to connect has probably never been this strong before. And so now is a perfect time to start utilizing it for not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of other people as well.
That's such a good point. And so it has the potential, right? Social media in particular, the potential to be very broad, but not very deep. But you can be intentional and choose to make it deep, right? You could choose to make it deep by taking the connection opportunities offline, and things like virtual coffees, or if you are in a some place where you are relatively close to people, meeting them in real life, IRL as they say, right? Meeting people in real life for coffee or lunch or what have you. And so you can be both broad and deep, but it's about your intention and what you want. I want to say that identifying, and here's a story that you can share, Robert, because I have not done this with any. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I've done this at all. Maybe once. But you reach out to authors, right? That's networking. So share about that, and how you've utilized and leveraged your habit of reading and connecting with authors.
Well, this is something I started, I don't know, it was years ago. And I was reading a book. I think how it first started, I was reading a book on, I think it was project management. So I was reading a book about project management, and it had a lot of really great tips in it. And it was really beneficial. I was working on a project and I needed to get some project management expertise. I'm not a certified project manager. I'm not a PMP. So I was trying to get some knowledge and understanding. And there were some really good insights in this book. And I reached out to this author. Her name was Lou Russell. And I was like, I'm just going to ask her a question. I didn't expect to hear anything back. And she shot an email right back to me. And we started this back and forth. And I got a lot of benefit from that communication. Recently, I read a book on strategy by an author, Dr. Johnny Welch. And I was knocked out by this book. I said, this is fantastic. And I reached out to him. I found him on LinkedIn. I found him on Instagram. I reached out to him and I said, yeah, I read your book. It was great. I put a review on Amazon and he got back to me and he was like, well, we started this back and forth. And he wrote another book and he said, look, I'd like to send you my new book. And so he sent me his new book and I read it and it was great. And we've been communicating. So I say this because I told somebody that I did this and they were so shocked that an author actually communicated back to me. And we were talking about this Sunday and I said, I've been doing this for, I don't know, gotta be at least 20 years now. I've only had one author that did not get back to me because guess what? They're humans. They're people too. And we are social beings. And when we do something, we put something out into the world, we like it when people appreciate it and give us feedback on it and tell us that our hunch about our idea was actually correct. So I think it's really important to really look at it for what it really is. We're just connecting. I did not reach out to these, but what the first time I did it, I had a question and I was like, she'll either answer me or she won't.
Right.
And I had no expectation. And then it just became something that I would do. I was like, I have a question. Let me reach out to this person. And I have to tell you, 90% of the time, when I do that, I hear back from the author and they're grateful for the communication and the interaction.
And so I have two thoughts around this. One is I think most people don't do that because they think that they won't get a response and their ego is wrapped up in not getting a response, like as if not getting having someone to respond to them is a reflection of them, and it's not, right? To my point earlier about vulnerability, if you're going to build relationships as an adult, right, somebody has to make the first move. Somebody has to reach out, and the author doesn't know about you. You know about the author, right? In this case, or a speaker, or a professor, what have you, right? When it's one to many, you as the one have a better chance of connecting with them. And then the other side of this, the part two of this is, as Robert said, they put their ideas out there and they want to hear back from people. And I have heard from a number of people that they don't get those feedback. People don't reach out. They offer, right? The speakers will offer, I'm in a mastermind, and the mastermind, the person who's running it says, reach out to me, ask me any question. And they're like, nobody takes me up on the offer, right? And so that piece of you that is about your ego and someone possibly not responding, one, let that go. And two, even if they don't, it's not about you. It's not a reflection of you. They don't know you yet, right? And it may turn out to be an opportunity that grows into something. And so I had an experience this sort of goes back to that time when I was volunteering, and I've shared this part of the story before. I got a gift, a book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. I got this book as a gift. I put it on the shelf for the longest time, didn't read it, was a little upset that I got it as a gift. One day, for whatever reason, picked the book up, read it. It was like I was outdone. Then I read the original. And there was an opportunity that came from when I was volunteering to connect with someone who had written a book. Basically, and then I put together a whole program that was for kids. It was a motivational sort of program for kids about goal setting, etc. And I wanted to be in that space. And so I got connected to the author and the creator of this program. and did some work with her for the longest time, all because I was willing to put myself out there. And if you are going to grow as a leader, right? And we're tying this networking back to you as a leader. If you're going to grow as a leader, you have to be willing to take the chances, right? Growth is about getting outside of your comfort zone. And so be okay with identifying and connecting with people who are inspiring you to grow and to be your best self. So reach out to them, send an email, send a direct message or an instant message to authors and speakers and others that you are observing, and let them, and don't reach out asking for something. Reach out and give them something, right? Let them know how much the work that they're doing is impacting you, is changing your life, etc. And while I can't guarantee it, chances are you'll get a response back, because you are giving them something, but it helps them know that the work that they're doing, people who do what they do to make an impact, want to know that they're making an impact. And so if they're making an impact on your life and you're growing, then let them know that. And so whether it's someone on a social media platform, an author, a speaker, professor, whatever it is, right? And so be intentional about that and set aside some time, weekly or monthly, where you intentionally, right, send those kinds of messages, and then be open to the possibilities that result from that.
I agree. I totally agree.
Okay. So let's wrap this up. You have a takeaway or a call to action you'd like to give to our audience?
Yeah, and the call to action is really for those folks who may be struggling with networking or have a negative connotation. Really work on shifting your mindset and think about how you've met people in the past, and use that same approach to networking.
Love it. Love it. And I'm going to challenge you to actually do something. So as you sit here, or when we're done, take a pen and paper or your favorite device and make a list of, let's say, 3 people that you currently have in your network that you're going to connect with to offer support or just to check in. And then 3 more people that you make a commitment to yourself to connect to 3 new people, right? So you want to continue nurturing your current network while you grow your future network, right? While you continue to grow your network. And again, not asking for anything at this point, just give, right? You utilize social media as a way to make it easier on you. But all the technology, telephone, email, text, right? Reach out, let people know you're thinking about them. If you have them in your personal network, if they're in your professional network, just reach out and say, I was thinking about you. How are things going? And you can ask, is there anything that I could do? Is there anything you need? Anything I can do for you? And let it go. All right. So with that, and that includes Robert and I, if you need something, want to have us cover a topic on the show, then reach out, send a voice message, a text message, a DM, or what are the other ways that someone can reach out to you if they wanted to, Robert?
They can reach out to me by emailing me at inspireme@roberthilliardcoaching.com, or they can just go to roberthilliardcoaching.com and get on my contact page and reach out to me there.
Awesome. Or you can reach out to me at shiftingintoaction.now.site, shiftingintoaction.now.site, and you can request a strategy session, would be happy to connect with you and see how I can help you leverage your network to help you get what you want or to become a better leader. So again, thank you for joining us for the State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond. We're here on Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, talking all things leadership. And until next time, take care.
Bye now.